Hey yo, what up, ladies and gentlemen, boy with a bag out here. Welcome to the Back Talk with the boy with a back, TBWTB. Sharp faded.
Thank you, guys. Guess what today, guys? We have special guest. Let's clap for hands.
Round of applause for the special guest. And Sharp faded, we have legend behind the camera, legend.
Yo, guys, we are here live, yo.
Yeah, you can see from the intro, I even messed up the microphone. It's because I feel it's a very special day for that I feel to a special guest here. I don't know if I should say Professor, Professor Bunt is here in the building, ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, sir, may you please just introduce yourself to the people who don't know you. Who is Professor Bunt?
Well, yeah, my name's Byron. I'm 39 years old.
39?
I live around this area. I live in Vereeniging, and yeah, I've been trained as a history lecturer. I train history teachers, and more recently I've been promoted to do more research. Yeah, on games, using games in the classroom. So, that's me basically in a nutshell. Yeah.
How would you explain your coming up, like you growing up? Where did you grow up? Was it around South Africa, maybe out there, or what?
No, it was local in the Vaal Triangle, in a small suburb called Rissiville. Yeah, I grew up there. I left. I moved to Maiton, and I've moved back. So yeah, I've been around here for.
Do you know any African language like Sisuthu, Sitsonga, or Venda?
A little bit of Sotho, but not a lot.
Yeah, let's try maybe.
Just to greet and say hello.
Inda.
That's Venda.
It's Inda. It's like hello, Inda. Yeah. So let's get down to business. Any question about the background from you, legend?
I know, I'm good.
I'm
Let's get down to the first question, the main questions. We don't want to waste any time. He's a prophet, so we have to respect him, guys. So this is just going to be professional.
So what's made you to teach history?
Well, it started when I was a child. I've always had a passion for playing video games. I'm sure most of you guys do as well. I was 7 years old. I was playing a game that came out at the time called Age of Empires, right? It's a strategy game, and it's set in like ancient times. So you could play with the ancient Babylonians, the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Greeks, and you would control their armies. You would, like a war simulator kind of thing. And when I started playing that game, I just wanted to read up more about these cultures. So that passion for history actually started by playing games.
And how long have you been teaching history?
Sure, man. Taking me back now. I graduated with my degree in 2010. So yeah, it's been 14 years.
I was 10 years. I'm sure this one was 6 or 7.
14 years, man. 14 a long time. Yeah, I'm still doing it now. I taught at a high school for 2 years, also in Vereeniging locally here. And then I came on board NWU as a history lecturer in 2012. So yeah, 12 years lecturing, 13 years. Yeah.
Would you say that back in high school you were an A student in history, or did you do history back in high school?
Yeah, I did it up until matric. I got a B in matric for history, so I was trying for that A, man, but I didn't get it. But once I started studying history education, then I got distinctions every year for history.
Every year?
Every year, yeah.
What's the catch? What's the trick?
How did I do it? I don't know. I think then I realized it was a passion. When I was still in school, it wasn't. It was just a hobby. But after matric, then it became a passion.
I have a question. I heard you saying you played games.
Yes.
All that.
Yeah.
What are the cultures that made you feel like you can relate to, or maybe that piqued your interest into teaching history?
Well, I think the Persian culture a lot, the Babylonian culture. I have a fascination with the Middle East, the old religions, the mythology, that kind of stuff. That speaks to me. Even Egyptian, like ancient Egypt, with the gods with their animal heads on and that kind of thing. I find that fascinating. It just speaks to me.
And you've taught maybe undergraduate students and postgraduate students. How do you teach them differently?
Yeah, okay. Undergraduate students, like those still studying for a bachelor's degree, right? Yeah. Or,
Sounds like this one.
I think, look, let's be honest. When you come from a school into university, this environment expects a little bit more from you in terms of you being self-directed. You must take charge of your learning, that kind of thing. But especially at a first year level, we don't see that happen that much. The lecturer still has to be more of a dominant role in guiding you guys. But once you get to postgrad, like, I supervise masters and PhD level students. They have been through this thing now for years. Yeah. So when you deal with those guys, I barely see them. I mainly discuss through email and message them that way. They direct themselves completely. They have a proposal, they work through it themselves. All I do is give a little bit of feedback, and they must tackle everything by themselves. So it's a hands-off approach with postgrad. But undergraduate, you've got to be a little bit more involved, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Follow-up question.
It's
It's like today you are scared of that.
No, I'm trying to be humble.
Follow-up questions. Every time
I'm trying to be humble here. This is professional today.
Yeah.
But some people think like history is not useful.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've heard that before.
Just like me back in high school. I didn't do it in high school. I only did it here in university.
Right.
So back in high school, I didn't do it because it was not even there. It was not there. Yeah. So.
Well, I think the problem with that is it's a misconception, right? It's very valuable. In the sense that people think it's just, it's about facts and dates and memorizing stuff and it's useless information. But I think that's just the way history has changed now. It's more of a skill set that you build. Because the subject now offers you tools, so it's like being able to read an article on your phone and go, I don't trust this. I'm detecting there's bias here. The reliability, I need to question it. Those kind of things, like when we look at sources in the history clause, you always got to see whose viewpoint is being taken here. Is it one-sided? Is it subjective or objective? So it's valuable. Those skills you don't learn in other subjects.
So according, I'm listening to what you're saying, I'm getting a sense that you need to travel a lot to know what actually happened in a scale of history. Do you do that? You travel a lot, or do history students travel a lot to see those things?
Well, look, when I was in school, we did like museum tours, that kind of thing. I suppose at university level, we don't do it as often as what I'd like. But that is good, to do site visits. But the other problem is the museums in South Africa, unfortunately, are a bit lacking. You only have certain historical periods where they represent in those museums. So I opt more for the digital thing, because you get digital tours or digital museums where you actually, with your controller, you can actually look around and walk around museums. I think that the Louvre in France has a virtual museum. So that could be a way, instead of paying the flight ticket to go there, hey, just on the luxury of behind your laptop, cool, man, I can go and see the Mona Lisa in a 3D environment. So.
But as for you, have you ever satisfy your curiosity to go to Egypt?
No, I would love to do that. I've only ever been overseas once. That was last year. I went to Denmark for a conference, and I saw a Viking museum there. That was fascinating.
Please go with me this year.
I'm actually going to Norway.
I will talk. So now you are teaching Potchstrom students history?
Yes, I do Vol and Potch.
Yeah.
Isn't that a lot of pressure for you?
Yeah.
How do you handle
it is pressure. Normally when you get to professor level, your teaching load lessens a bit, but it's fine. I took up the challenge, so I do on both. But for Potch, I teach them just like online distance thing. Yeah.
Do you do lesson plan? Do you still do lesson plans here?
Lesson plans.
Yeah. Like it's a lecture or
lesson
professor,
plan.
you submit a lesson plan to someone.
Well, we kind of do. It's more an assessment plan, right? So what assignments are you going to do throughout this semester? Someone a moderator has to sit there and check the quality and say, this is good, this is bad. So we still kind of do that, even at a university level.
How do you get to that level of being a professor?
I just want to ask.
Okay. Well, there are different rankings at a university. We have junior lecturers. They just need an honors degree. Then you can apply for a job here. Then you start building up. Doing So once you get that, you need to get a master's degree, and then you can get promoted to lecturer level.
Okay.
Then for senior lecturer, you must have a PhD and you must have started supervising your own postgrad students and maybe writing or publishing an article. Then you get to senior lecturer. Then to get to where I am now as associate professor, you need to have done a lot of research for like 5 years. You must be publishing like a printing press, you know, and have at least done something like 4 or 5 masters and PhD students of your own that have graduated. And then you get to associate. But then there's the last level, full professor. Yeah.
Professor.
That'll take still a couple of years for me to get there.
But now when I was still 39.
Yes.
The other day.
Yeah, now I'll get there. Maybe in about 2 or 3 years we can get to that last level. Yeah.
And
this is not a follow-up question. It's just a new question. How did teaching history change you as a person, right? Because you started as being a dream, maybe what you wanted to do, then you actually achieved that dream. How did that feel like, and how did it change your life?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, this wasn't a planned career. Right? I was one of those kids in matric that had no idea what they wanted to do after school. So it was a last-minute decision. My mother pressuring me, going, "You got to do something. Choose now." And I thought, well, I love history. It's got to be something in history. So either I teach it or I study it as a pure science. You know, doing a BA in history or something that I could become. I didn't even know, either teacher or working at a museum or in an archive or something like that. So I randomly chose doing a Bachelor of Education. I did it for 4 years, and then normally in the B.Ed we go to schools for practicals, right? So that first time I stood in front of a class and I started, throwing in a couple of jokes about history, and I brought in like the game stuff and all the other fun stuff. Then I realized, wow, this is I actually enjoy this. I want to keep on doing this. And especially when I got to lecturer level, to try and convince the students that I'm training to be as passionate about the subject as I am. Take it out there, go spread the word,
One last thing. So I feel like you've been, for so long now, you've been standing in front of people, addressing people. Now, we are standing in front of you, trying to address you. How does it make you feel now that the roles are reversed?
I haven't been lectured to in a while. Let's put it that way. It feels awkward, but I'm getting used to it.
I can see that it's not really comfortable.
That's all right.
And now let's talk about the new AI, the new technology. The AI. Do you think it's changing the way of studying history?
Yeah, I do. I think it's going to change the way you study any subject, actually. But in history, for example, we assess our students with writing essays. So they've got to write argumentatively. So we give them a statement, and then they've got to now evaluate if the statement is valid. And they've got to take a side, right? So now, and the way they write the essays, it's like a standard academic thing. You've got to read books, you've got to read online, and you've got to reference them, that kind of thing. But now if you go to ChatGPT and you just copy and paste the question right into Chat and say, write me an academic essay, it'll do it for you. And it does it well. If a lecturer is not careful, if they don't check this AI similarity, we have this system at the university called Turnitin, right? That it will highlight things that AI has generated.
Huh?
So, it does that. By the way,
I'm gonna be careful now.
But the thing is, how it's going to affect the teaching, I think, is we as future history teachers or as history lecturers, we have to start twisting it around. Instead of allowing ChatGPT to be manipulated that way, why not just ask Chat already, make like 2 or 3 essays, generate them, and then in class, we actually give the students the AI generated essays and say, look, read through this in a group, analyze what response it's giving. Do you agree? How would you change it? That kind of thing. So we're looking for bias and detecting reliability. So let's test that now with an actual generated thing where they don't even need to generate it. It's been generated already. So it's like twisting the roles.
But I feel like what you're saying it's mostly based on history, right? I don't know if I'm getting it right. I think what you're saying is mostly based on history. What about people who are doing maths, for example, or geography, right? they are going to still go and copy and paste. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe in the next 5 years, AI is going to be developed to a point where you can ask things that you can't ask as of yet. Né?
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
what are the ways to maybe deal with that in education?
Look, I think one of the founders of ChatGPT said this. He said, do not replace your thinking with AI. Any time where you are no longer using critical thinking or problem solving when you're doing any academic work, doesn't matter which subject, means you've lost the essence of the AI. The intention of artificial intelligence is meant to be a tutor or a guide, that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So if you need to brainstorm an idea, I mean, I use chat a lot. I use it for coding now as well. I'm making my own games, by the way.
Oh.
And I never knew how to code before.
Sure.
So now I got, I'm making educational games, but we'll talk about that just now. But yeah, I mean, for example, I didn't know anything about coding. So I asked it, what is one of the easier programming languages to learn? It suggested Python. I had a rule set for a card game I made. I said, cool, how do I now take this and turn it into a game? And then I worked with it that way, you know. Like it guided me, I was coding, and then if I got stuck, I asked it again, what's happening here? So it's that kind of thing, right? It's not just, I told it make the whole game by itself. I was working with the AI. I think that's the difference. Yeah.
I think it's very important to like guide the students based on how they can use AI.
Yeah.
Because most of them are misusing it.
Copy and paste,
I think,
copy and
I think it's because maybe, I don't know, maybe they're told don't use AI.
Yeah, now
And not saying don't use AI.
Makes them want to.
Yeah, makes them want to use AI.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I feel like it's supposed to be somewhere
you can
between
use
the
it.
lines, right? You can
Don't
use
rely.
AI.
problem solving,
Yeah.
critical thinking.
Yeah.
Apply those.
Because the moment you say don't use AI, you know what I've realized? I think students, if they are choosing between studying and finding a way to use AI
Yeah.
to write,
Yeah.
they rather find a way
Yeah.
than
Obvious,
study.
obvious.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah, so I feel like it's better to find a way to integrate learning with what AI.
I agree. I support that fully. Yeah.
But how do you think the school can do that? Maybe.
Well, yeah, it's just, look, it's about awareness, first of all, because people, again, have misconceptions about AI. You know, some people are anti-AI completely. I know some lecturers who are anti-AI. Then I get, like me, I'm pro-AI. You get some of us that like to experiment and do different things with it. Then you get those that are in the middle, you know, they're not sure, should they, shouldn't they. I think it's a case of, going up to the top level management at the university and saying, look, here are the pros and cons. Can't we write up some guidelines? There actually are guidelines at the university on AI use. They actually are for it, by the way. Just by the way, let's promote NWO. They're actually pro-AI, but used in an effective way, like I mentioned now. Not like being lazy. You know, we don't promote lazy students. We want students to think. Yeah.
So is there a topic that is difficult to approach it?
In history.
Yeah,
in
those
history.
are controversial, sensitive things. Yeah, you get them. That was one of the more tricky lessons I had to learn when I started teaching my first year. Because now you're talking about very bad things like sexism, racism, violence. That kind of stuff. It's touchy. I mean, you look at apartheid history, for example.
Yeah, yes.
You know, when I come in, I was 22 when I got my degree. Walking into a class that's, full of African students. Now I have to teach you about apartheid. I come here with my bias.
Yeah.
I was born in '86, towards the end of apartheid. I lived through some of apartheid. I have my own perspective and way of thinking, this white perspective. Now coming to tell a bunch of African kids about apartheid. That was rough. Man.
I'm trying to imagine how it was like in class.
But I mean, then I in the beginning, I kind of treated it, I just glossed over the sensitive stuff. I tried to rush through it because I didn't want to engage in those sensitive debates with my students. But eventually I learned I have to get in. Because I offer them perspectives they don't know, and they offer me perspectives I don't know.
Yeah.
So it's that give and take, and that changed everything once I realized that, I think. It made it easier for me to address sensitivity.
But now it's okay.
Yeah, I'm fine with it. I want the controversy. Embrace it.
Maybe if it's not too much, tell us a little bit about the games. I'm just curious about the games that you're creating.
Yeah, look, my PhD was the first time I started looking at using games in teaching. It's called game-based learning, right? So I used a game that came out in 2012 called Portal. So it's a first-person shooter game, right, where you don't have a gun that shoots bullets, it shoots portals out. So it's a puzzle game, it's very difficult, it's extremely complicated to solve the puzzles. And I had this thought, maybe if I train students with this game, they'll develop their critical thinking skills. So I did a whole month thing where students came in and they played the game, and I taught them a bit of problem-solving skills as well. And my results were positive. They were learning critical thinking.
Yeah.
Right? So we can play the game now.
Yeah, well, I have a copy of it. I'll borrow it to you. Yeah. But then after that, that's how my research focus basically became a reality. Then I thought, okay, I used the video game. Why can't I use other games? So then I started working with my brother, actually, who's a graphic designer at the same university. We worked together. So he did the graphic part, and I did the content part, where I brought the content skills into the game. And we made our first game. Is called Dogs of War. It's a card game with that focuses on World War II history. But now it's Dogs of War. So the soldiers are actually dogs, dressed in clothes and stuff. It's a cartoon kind of a thing. That game is fun, man. I actually have a box of it in my office. I could maybe show you another time. But we developed another game called Sight Saga. This is a game, it's like a fantasy themed game, right? Okay. Knights and wizards and that kind of thing. But now it's not just fantasy, they're learning as well. It's about academic integrity. So how to not plagiarize, how to write citations and that kind of thing. Where you collect like shards of crystals and then you've got to build a citation. And these are all board games and card games that I've made.
So are you making money from those things, or are you just doing them for now?
Look, at first it's purely for research. But I have started commercializing them. We have a department at the university that works with commercialization and copyrights. So who knows? They are looking for buyers. So if someone buys those rights, then I get royalties from that. So let's see what happens.
What about a student who wants to create a game also? Maybe they're going to watch this and be like, yo, I want to do that too. How do they even start? How do they even begin?
Well, the first thing I would say is, if it's educational games, right? I think first find a problem in whatever subject you're teaching that you feel needs a bit of a boost by using a game to make it easier for students to understand. Secondly, you need to know what types of games there are. You need to be a gamer. I would always say you need to be a gamer to make games. Right? So you need to know what style of game would best fit into your content. You need to know what medium it will take. So will it translate better into a card game? Because card games can get very complicated. I mean, you also need to know of other games so you can reference their mechanics. I mean, that Dogs of War game, we used a very popular card game called Magic the Gathering and the Pokemon trading card game. A lot of these mechanics we adapted, we took some of their ideas and we made it our own. So you need to know what other games are out there and what mechanics you can use. And then you need a graphic designer. My game would look terrible if it wasn't for my brother doing the graphics. If it's just like little text boxes with little blocks and stuff. No, he made it look nice. You need a professional designer just to make that game come to life. And then lastly, you need to play test. I mean, you can't now just assume your game is fun if you haven't even tested it out yet. So, I mean, my brother and I would sit with a couple of Zamaleks on a weekend, and we would play our own game, and we'd see if it's fun, and then we'd make notes. This isn't working. This is cool, and then you just keep on refining it until you're happy with it. So, those are the steps I think you need to take.
Maybe to someone who doesn't know a graphic designer, maybe you can introduce your brother so that they can know the plug so that they know okay, if I want to do this, there's this person that I can contact.
Sure. Well, I can give his details.
We'll put them on the
100%. He does consultation freelance work, so if you reach out to him, he'll help you out.
Okay, cool.
So which history topic do you love?
Ancient history, man. Mythology, stuff about old gods. You know, again, playing games like God of War, that kind of thing. Or where you can actually feel like what these people were going through in their lives back then. Like in ancient Egypt, for example, you know, they had a sun god. They had gods for every different aspect of life. You had a god of farming, you had a god of mining, you know, and how they represent these beings, you know, with animal heads and stuff. I find that fascinating. It's like,
and I think I'm also not into that deep, man. I'm also into those things. I think it used to work a lot for them.
Yeah.
And now I feel like with us, it's probably not working as well as it used to back in the days. I'm wondering, what do you think went wrong? Where did we go wrong when it comes to these things?
what do you mean, in general or religion?
Yeah, in general. Like if you check, they used to have like to predict how it's going to rain, how it's going to all those things because of their gods of whatever. So now we are using, I think we are using technology. We can't really predict the way they used to predict or do things that they used to do or as efficient. So where do you think maybe we went wrong?
We lost touch with nature. We lost touch with nature. I think that's the biggest problem. They were outside all the time. They weren't lazy. They weren't couch potatoes. They weren't addicted to cell phones. They were, they were in touch with nature. You know? We've become too domesticated. I think that's the problem. And we over-rely on technology a lot as well.
So this is not only on students.
No, it's on society in general. It's a general statement.
Okay.
So, as a history lecturer, do you think history repeats itself?
Yes, it can, but there's different ways to view history, right? You can get what's called linear history, which is what people would normally think, a timeline. So something happened, then something happens afterwards, something happened afterwards. It's in a chronological sequence, right? That's the normal view of history. But there are other views, like we call it cyclical history, where things happen in loops. You can see these cycles repeat themselves over and over again. I, for one, don't take side with either one. I see a mixture of the two, actually, where you can see things happen in sequence, but you can see patterns emerge. And how things repeat themselves. So,
based on that explanation, I think that is going to shift a bit from that. Do you believe in reincarnation, since you're saying history repeats itself? That just came to my mind.
Well, for religion's sake, I think everything does die and get born again. But the idea of a soul, you as a person, if you die, you come back. I'm more agnostic there. I'm not sure, but I can see rebirth. And I see that cycle repeat. I read up on Buddhism a lot. I can appreciate that philosophy and that religion. I respect it a great deal, actually, and it's given me a lot of food for thought. I meditate often. But that kind of cyclical view of life, we see it all the time. Even in science, you can see how cells degenerate and then regenerate.
You mentioned that you meditate. How does that help? A lot of people always say that, and a lot of successful people always say, we meditate this and that. How does that help you?
I would actually...
How do you meditate that?
How do I do it? Let me make this statement before I say that. I would actually even dare to say that prayer is a form of meditation. Think about it, right? You close your eyes, you speak to your own mind, and you send out a message to a being, a God, or what have you. And you are centering yourself. You're focusing. You're being calm. You're quiet. Stillness. I think that's the key. So anytime you're in a quiet environment, your eyes are closed. You're sitting still, and you're just focusing on one thing, and you're keeping yourself calm. That's meditation. You don't even need to do the traditional stance. You don't have to.
But every time when you you think.
I mean, that's what I said. This can also be meditation as well. Prayer is a form of meditation. So if you're praying, you're meditating. Just do it more often. Then.
So do you believe in numerology? Like, numerology. Yeah, those numbers and related to event. If you're born in which year and what it means what.
Star signs.
Astronomy, astrology. Sorry, No, not personally, no. But I appreciate it. I mean, I understand that some people look at that and it's mystical and mysterious. I like conspiracy theories a lot. I read a lot about that kind of stuff. So it's not to say I don't believe it, but it's not that I'm not interested. I do appreciate it. So.
Oh, and some people, they say history is written by a winner.
Yes, I've heard that.
Do you think history can be truly fair?
No, it cannot be. Technically, no history is purely objective. Whatever history is, because remember, we have different kinds of source material we can get from history. We get written sources, so like ancient Egyptian papyrus, where they wrote down in hieroglyphics. That's a written source. A newspaper, an article you read on your phone or what have you. Those are all written. Then you have visual sources like photos, maps, that kind of thing. You have oral traditions where the stories are passed down, that kind of thing. So, I think it's written by the victors is actually true, because whatever political government or whatever is in power, their narrative will be pushed, right? So you see that with pre-apartheid or pre-94 history textbooks, for example. The history was written by the winners then, because it purely focused on what the Afrikaans culture was doing, with racial segregation at the time. You barely even heard anything about the ANC resistance or the PAC, nothing. Now look at post-94, go open up an Oxford textbook now. What is the history being written about apartheid there? It's purely ANC resistance movement history. So I agree with you, it can never be truly objective. But it's our role as history teachers to try and be as objective as possible. Because I can't come in, like I said in the previous example, I can't come in as a white guy to a bunch of kids, African kids in a school, and I expect them to believe what I believe, right? You attack the subjectivity and try and be as objective as you can, but it's never fair. It's never ever fair. It can't be fair.
Life is not fair.
Life is not fair.
History is not fair.
But if it's not fair to everyone, is life not fair? At the end of the day, it's fair, because it's not fair to anyone.
It's fair.
You must make it as fair as possible. That's the call to action, I suppose.
So another question: if you could go back in time to witness a history event that occurred, which one would it be?
Yeah, man, I have so many books about the ancient city of Babylon. I don't know why that city fascinates me so much. There's this, have you heard of the 7 wonders of the world? Yeah, one of them that was lost to time was in the city of Babylon, called the Hanging Gardens. I mean, I would love to walk through that city. They have these big, massive blue gates in the front of the city that have lapis lazuli, it's shining in the sun. Got golden like dragons and lions on it. I'd just love to walk through that ancient town and just explore it. Listen to the old music, walk into an old temple. That
I was expecting you to say maybe the crucifixion of Jesus Christ.
Look, it's a major event. Yeah.
What's your major event? Which one would you want to go back to?
Me? Now that you said Jesus Christ, why not?
Obviously.
Why not?
But the question is, would you try and help him?
Would I try and help him?
Yeah.
Now that I know the end result, I wouldn't interfere, because I know he's trying to die for us.
There we go.
I'll let him die. It's not a joking man. I'm being serious.
Yeah, true.
Because I know the purpose, right, of the whole thing he's doing. So I'll let him.
Is there a history event that is still continuing now?
A history
event.
What do you mean event? Like
maybe
Maybe
apartheid, that it's still occurring somewhere in
other places. You mean like a big thing that's going on?
Yeah. Maybe it's still going on. And,
That's what you I almost want to say the Cold War hasn't really ended. If you think about,
I wanted to ask about that war.
Think about the Russia-Ukraine war that's going on now. The only reason that war is going on is because Vladimir Putin hasn't let go of the idea of the Soviet Union yet. Because when the Soviet Union existed, the Ukraine, Belarus, a lot of those Eastern European countries were part of the whole political system. So he still believes Ukraine is actually his territory. So we see that legacy go on. I mean, even to this day, that event is still carrying on.
What about BRICS, right? The de-dollarization. These 5 nations trying to bring down the G20.
That's it.
Is it a form of World War III?
It is. I would call it economic warfare. China's been doing that for a long time, right? I almost want to call it economic colonization, is what the Chinese do. Because if you think about it, they sell their stuff for super cheap. They have Chinatowns, like where in any country you go to, there's a Chinatown somewhere. And they are very big in buying big pieces of land, developing it, and then, they control countries economically, not politically, but definitely through economics.
So to me, it's like now there's Russia and there's China, right? In the same team. Are these two people going to, be intertwined?
I'm not too sure about that. Look, they are supporting each other. They did practice the same political system, communism, for many decades. But I don't think their interests will always be 100% aligned. I mean, Russia will be doing things for its own benefit. China does things for its own benefit. I mean, they are aligned right now, but let's see what happens. I'm predicting not for long.
Not for long. But with the new currency, I feel like it's. Do you think it will even work? The new currency.
Yeah, the BRICS currency. I don't know. Look, I mean, Donald Trump is very anti this BRICS thing, man. You see what he's saying about South Africa now. So if you even try, we will remove all trade with South Africa. You're gonna have tariffs if you want to buy from us. So I think already it's setting up itself for failure, because the dollar is called the greenback for a reason, right? It's the main currency to exchange with, and now we, a small nation like South Africa, aligned with these other countries, are now trying to de-dollarize. I don't know. I think it might be a problem. It's probably not going to work. Like even the euro, if you look at the euro when it started, it wasn't doing well. I mean, when Greece, when their GDP dropped, and when Spain's GDP dropped, it affected the euro negatively. So if we have one weak country in the chain, then we all suffer. So I don't think it's a good idea.
But I feel like I think we're dwelling more on this conversation. Mara, last question. So I feel like with BRICS, it has the giant of Africa, and not only of Africa but of the world as a whole. Because population of India, population of China, Russia, these populations, they are very huge, right?
Largest in the world.
In a sense of, if a small nation is saying we don't want to trade with you, and we have the numbers of all the nations, are we really losing here? I'm just saying.
I think it also has got to do with the sort of power that the companies have. Some of the richest companies come from America. Especially in the tech industry, they dominate. So I mean, if they're trading, billions and billions of dollars worth of tech-related stuff, I mean, losing out to India and China is like a little drop in the ocean for them, because other countries will still trade with them with their own currency. So I think it's got to do with the value of the product at the end of the day. Even though they have the numbers game, I agree with you. I don't think it's the only variable you should be looking at.
One day we'll write history about BRICS.
With this thing of Elon Musk, since you mentioned Trump, Elon Musk, some people were saying that he's the president because he's always there. He's always What's your take on that? How do you view that?
Look, part of me is almost wanting to call the government of America right now, what do you call it? An oligarchy. I don't know if you've heard of it.
What's that? Do you know what's that?
What? An oligarchy.
Oligarchy.
It's essentially basically a country ruled by the rich and wealthy. Right? So I think that's what's happened here, because Elon Musk has spent billions of dollars supporting Donald Trump during his campaign, promising him things. And I mean, he even at his presidential inauguration, he had so many top-level tech guys there. He had Mark Zuckerberg sitting there, Musk was there, Jeff Bezos was there. They were all there. So I mean, to my mind, it just sounds like, okay, all the top rich guys now. And Donald Trump's also rich. Don't kid yourself. He's got his own Trump Towers, his own industry and that. So and they, by the looks of things, it looks like they're trying to shift power so that the rich control America. That's just my take. I don't know if 100% facts, but that's just what the patterns I'm noticing.
He's the president, that guy.
He's the president.
Because he's the richest, right?
He's the richest man. But how do you even get to that?
Even
kind
go
of
to the
wealth?
office with your child, like
With your child.
Yeah, in
He
the
doesn't,
office.
even the clothes he wears, it's not. He doesn't wear formal clothes that normally people wear when they go to the White House.
Yeah, correct.
He just wear normal.
It's
clothes.
like his normal house.
Yeah.
He's walking around.
Whatever.
That guy's legend.
Yeah.
He's legend.
The only legend is there's only one legend.
Yeah. Another one then. About anything else on Elon Musk?
Elon Musk is South African.
He was born in South Africa.
Yeah.
He
He's
lived
not
here for
South
a while.
African. He was born in South Africa.
He was born. He has citizenship unless he revoked it.
Because
Yeah.
the other day I was checking countries with the richest person. Elon Musk is not counted in South Africa.
Yeah,
He's
I think-
counted in the United States.
Yeah, he revoked his South African citizenship. He is an American citizen, but he was born here.
Can anyone do that? Because like America has this strict thing of if you're not American,
But if
they'll
you're
call you
not-
Black American.
That's the joke. They call Elon Musk an African American. I'm not even joking. He's technically an African American. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were saying he can't be president that side.
Yeah.
Because he's African American. Yeah.
Exactly.
Barack Obama.
Yeah, but
Black American.
Yeah.
Yeah, good point. But I think he naturalized himself, or his family had naturalized there, because I think part of Elon Musk's, his father, I think Errol, still stays in South Africa. I think so. Maybe that's the thing. The generations haven't been there long enough for him to be considered a true American.
But don't we really think that money can change that idea?
Yeah.
Well, look what's happening.
Money can change anything.
Elon Musk, what with this Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency, I mean, he's just going through so many secret financial records and stuff. I mean, who has that amount of power to do that? He's not even the president, and yet he's able to do all of this stuff. So yeah, you're right. He's the one in control. Yeah.
I also hear that they're going to the bank. The I don't know what it's called, but in America they have this huge bank where they store all the gold.
The
Federal
ones that are
Reserve.
going to check that, they're still there.
I hear Elon Musk is going to be there too. That guy's with me.
Let's see what happens.
Okay, let's move on from this.
Anything else there?
Yeah, I just want to ask, what's the difference between teaching here at university and high school? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big difference, man. I think dealing with different age groups is a thing you need to take into account. Like, I saw when I was teaching grade 8s, man, these kids are like 13, 14 years old.
Yeah.
Versus coming to university, teaching first years that are 19, 20. It's a huge difference. I mean, when I got to university, I could almost talk about anything. You know, I could crack jokes like I'm cracking now. Whereas in a classroom, you need to be sensitive what you say. And, you know, me being naturally English speaking, my vocabulary, I sometimes use very big words. You can't do that in a class of 13, 14.
You can.
That's all you hear. So
Also-
they don't understand. Yeah.
Also, like, how is it like? I feel like nowadays the schools are predominantly black people, black students, black learners, right?
Yeah.
How is it like teaching? Like, I feel like accent matters a lot when you are teaching, because
Yes.
if your accent is, I don't want to sound racist or something, but if you find someone who's Indian, their accent is confusing, especially to me. I won't lie. To me, it sounds confusing. I don't actually hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
So
That's true.
as a lecturer or as a teacher, what are the steps or measures you should take with that? Because learners are obviously not going to understand.
Yeah,
And the
that's a
whole
tough
point,
one. I think, well, just to say, the Department of Education, what I know, they're moving more towards mother tongue education throughout all the grades. So I think that it might be tricky, you know, if you're a white person teaching at like an African school, for example. If you don't know how to speak Sesotho or Setswana, but I think that'll open up more avenues, because now you can also learn in your own language and understand an accent that you're familiar with. But yeah, if it's the other side, then I think the best thing would be is to supplement with as many teaching support materials as you can that are in English, that are easy to understand, and maybe have presentations with you. So now while you're talking, you have a presentation that's in English, So yeah, I understand what you're saying. Some accents are difficult. It's human nature. We struggle to understand things that are different. So I think the best is just to supplement with material.
And students who are laughing us, us who are doing history, they say we are not gonna get job.
Hey man, I don't agree with that. I think there was this thing that they wanted to make history compulsory, and I've heard more about it. Yeah, they want to merge it with LO. That's now the new thing that I heard. They want to take away certain themes in LO, and they want to bring in history stuff, but it's not pure history. They're calling it civic education. Right?
Yes.
Because technically, what is the purpose of studying history? It's trying to make you a more informed, more critical thinking citizen one day, right? So that you understand the past, so that you don't repeat mistakes. So now that's what they're thinking. So either you choose pure history in grade 10, or you will do civic education history in the LO component, if you don't choose it as a major subject. So that's a way, it's a compromise, because they were worried now, if we fire all the LO teachers, where are we going to get all the history teachers from? But yeah, don't worry, I think because of that fact, the LO teachers will have to be trained in this history part as well. So that means all the students now studying history education, you're going to be in demand quite soon, I think.
Any question?
No, as long as you're getting jobs. As long as you're getting jobs, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'm fine.
Anything else?
Okay, I have something entirely different. I have a question for you. When we were coming here, what did you expect from us? Like, what did you thought this interview was going to be like?
Well, I don't know. I kind of have been interviewed before, but yeah, I'm quite impressed with what you got going on here. So it met my expectation. I thought it would be a bit more serious. I wasn't exactly sure how it would play out, but I like the free form tone, the joking, and that I appreciate that. So, no, my expectations are far exceeded. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
And then we have this guy here, Mr. Romeo. This guy, he loves you so much. I don't know if you guys tell him something. He's also doing history. He loves you so much. So that's the reason why I stood up. He just texted. He said, "I want to ask a few questions, maybe." Romeo.
So,
Yes.
good day.
Hi, how are you? Fine, thanks.
I'm good. So I wanted to ask, as a history lecturer, do you find it difficult maybe teaching the apartheid era history to black students, if I can say that?
Yeah, I touched on that. I did touch on that.
Okay.
It's a thing of knowing this. This changed the way I taught history. Is this concept, and it's a big word. Called multi-perspectivity. Okay, if you just break it up, multiple perspectives. Okay, if you embrace the notion that history is never fair, it's never purely objective. Whatever you do, whatever source you get, whatever you hear, whatever you read, whatever you see, whatever, there's subjectivity of someone that authored that. Right, that will always come out. You always bring yourself into whatever you say to someone, or whatever you write down. So if the students understand that there's subjectivity everywhere. There's bias everywhere. You must question reliability of everything. So if I come into a class and I have to teach about apartheid, I would say, I come from apartheid. I was born in 86. I have these English white perspectives that are going to come in when I speak to you. But I want you to scrutinize what I'm saying. I want you to understand from my perspective is different to yours. Maybe learn something from it, and I'll take the same back from you. So it's that kind of give and take relationship. And once I've embraced that, it made teaching any controversial subject a breeze, actually. That it's actually a learning opportunity. It's a way to tackle it and unpack it and almost like demystify it, because that's the problem, right? Some of these topics in history are very mystical, it's touchy, you don't really want to get into it. Why not confront the controversy? I challenge people.
Yeah, it's very challenging.
Yeah,
just like when you say, "I love Nelson Mandela," it's gonna be challenging.
Everybody loves Nelson Mandela.
It's gonna be challenging. Yeah.
Romeo,
Yeah.
It's your time right now.
No, that's the question. That's the
Only
biggest
one
question.
question.
Yeah.
Why do you love him so much, eh?
Yeah, he's inspired me a lot.
Yeah.
I remember last year we were doing this other assignment. Where to play a game, where to choose a nation, as we chose Ottomans.
That's one of my research projects that he was involved in. We took that game that I spoke about right in the beginning, that game that made me fall in love with history. And I actually thought, cool, let's see if it will make other students fall in love. So we actually let the students play the game for a while, and they made voice recordings over the gameplay.
And it looked very difficult when we were looking at it. So he made everything so simple for us. We were scared. When we arrived there, like relax and analyze everything.
Professionalism.
Thank you guys.
But why do you think they love you so much? Eh?
I don't know. Maybe
What's the secret?
I've
been trying to figure that out.
If you were black, they were going to say maybe you are using that black magic. They always but how do you do it?
I don't know. It's just personality, I think. I think that's what it boils down to, is that I don't see myself as being different from anyone else. Doesn't matter who you are, and I'm open. I can joke. I can be myself. Just that. I don't have to be called professor every time. Just call me Byron. I'm fine with that. So it's a thing of I'm like everyone else. I think treat everyone the same. That's about it.
But okay, a follow-up question on that. Why, I don't know if this is going to be somehow, but why is it like other lectures don't have the same level of freeness as you? Because you'll find them, okay, I don't want to say they're straight, but they don't laugh. Okay, they do, Mara, there's a line.
There's a boundary. I don't know, maybe they have that student lecturer sort of hierarchy that they maintain. I mean, I always thought of this. I've watching movies. I can't remember the name now, but you see a professor going out to a pub and drinking Zamaleks with their students. I'm cool with that. I'll do that. I've done it before. So I like that.
Zamalek.
But I like
it connects you with the students together with learning. It makes it easy, I think, personally.
Yeah, I agree fully with that. That's and what I promote as well.
So how would you like the students to remember you guys?
Someone who inspires, and to take the message of history is fun and amazing and valuable and worthwhile, and taking it out there, just spreading that. That's it.
Last thing, I didn't want to ask this question, but I feel like I want to ask it either way.
Let's hear the question.
Okay, so it's about education as a whole, and I don't want to put you in a rough spot here, but to be honest, I want to ask this question. We have this thing of we are NSFA students, and then there are other NSFA students we know, right? I feel like we are all equal at some level. But other schools, when they go for practicals, they get practical allowance. And there's us. We are all using NSFA. I always wondered, what did we do wrong?
I think it depends on the university and how they work with their fee structure, right? So those that get allowances, if you had to look at their academic record, or the yearbook, or the pricing structure per module, you'll probably notice that their practical teaching modules are more expensive than ours, for example, where you don't get an allowance. So technically you're paying more in the beginning, but then that little extra you paid in comes back in the form of an allowance. Our structure just doesn't do that. So maybe we should look into something like that.
Because initially we are suffering. We are suffering, to be honest. When we go for practicals, you don't have anything for transport, anything for lunch. You're just trying to survive, and on that sense, you are under the pressure of creating lesson plans, and preparing for class. In the same time,
it's a lot.
I brought this issue before, but I just wanted to ask, but it's fine.
You need to take it up with the fee structure. I think that's it.
So, as a lecturer in the Faculty of Education, right? Where do you think we are in terms of education in our country as a whole? And do you think we can do better, or do you think we are far more behind?
I think myself, we need to push boundaries a bit. We need to be more experimental. We need to, what I call tinker. You need to be a tinkerer. You need to think of new ways to do things, like I did with games. I mean, I've got a student of mine who's working with digital comic strips. You know, just making students make their own comics. You know, that's cool. You know, that's the thing. I think we need to stop being so fixated on this thing of you learn for a while and then you got to write a test afterwards. This whole thing, I actually don't even believe in testing. That kind of thing, you know, that formal summative assessment. I think exams need to be scrapped. You heard it here, right? I don't think exams work. It's just, it's too much pressure, and it's only one mode to assess in a written form. We have this concept of, I think education should become more multimodal, for example.
Also
right?
practical.
Yeah, and more obviously more practical. But I mean, why can't you submit a voice recording of you answering your exam? Why can't you make like an infographic or some sort of video or something like what you guys are doing, right? Submit your exam like that. Why must it always be you sitting in a room and writing on a piece of paper? It's outdated. It's not really effective.
Because when it all comes down to exams, and if we are being honest, when we study for exam, we are studying to answer, not to know. Most students are studying to answer the questions, and then they're not getting anything. They're not getting anything out of the exam. And I think the purpose of an exam was to see if they understand. But it's no longer about that to students, right?
It's memorization.
But also in the same time, I feel like introducing another form of learning will require a lot of budget. Not only because like it has to start in primary. Of course.
Oh yeah, it has to go through the whole system.
Yeah, it has to change from grade 1 until here. So now I feel like it will require a lot of budget in which, in this case, I don't think South Africa has the means to provide that to students.
Or maybe it does, because it's worth it, because as you know, the kids are the future of this country. And it starts there actually at grade grade 1. So if they grow at that particular space, I think the country will be more.
Yeah, you could do what do they call it, on a shoestring approach, where you don't have to use a lot of high-tech expensive stuff. I mean, if you're doing an oral exam, for example, that doesn't require much. I mean, if you're doing it live with the student, then you don't have to pay a cent for recording or uploading data costs, none of that. So yeah, there are ways around it. I think people just need to look into it a bit. Yeah.
Maybe the Department of Education is filled with, I don't want to sound somehow old people that think this system of examine what not still works, right? You need to go there to department.
So what is your take? What do you think about the Bella Act?
That's the one where they want to introduce more African languages, right? As like mother tongue instruction. Look, I'm not a language education expert, but I do feel it's valuable. In the same breath, though, I also want to say that me being a home language English speaker kind of set me up for success, because it's an international language, because it's an academic language. I mean, all the top rated academic articles are all in English, so it's internationally accessible. It's difficult because, you know, I was privileged, if I want to use that word, by having the most widely used language, and I grew up with it, so it made it easy for me to navigate. So now someone who's now going to learn in their mother tongue and not get as much exposure to the international language, I think it might disadvantage you. That's my honest opinion. I think English, let's be pragmatic about it. That is the current situation. Everyone speaks it. The best academic stuff is all in English. Let's be practical. Okay? You still need to know English. Otherwise, you're going to be in a silo. You're only going to surround yourself with those people that you speak your language with, and you're not going to get exposure. I think that's the problem. Think about it now. For example, this YouTube video you make. You can now expose yourself, because we're speaking in English, to any country around the world, and they'll understand us, right? So that's my argument. I think it's a great act. Just don't lose sight of the fact that English should still be seen as important.
And I feel like we don't have all the words, or like standardizing the language let's talk about cells, for example. A cell is supposed to be a cell. It's a standard language, right? If you try and bring another word to say a cell, someone will be confused. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Yeah, look, it's, again, academic terms. Like I said, English is an academic language. A lot of these new, discoveries or inventions or what have you, they coined the term, but now that's not present in, for example, like in Afrikaans or in Sesotho or whatever. So then they just use the English word anyway. So, I mean, yeah, it makes it more difficult. It makes it more difficult to actually, because you're going to be code switching at the end of the day. You're going to be speaking a little bit in English, speaking a little bit in another language. So it gets confusing. Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Professor Bunt. I'm going to take off this glove. For blessings. More blessings.
Cheers, man. Cheers. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks.
One last thing. Any advice to all the students and all the people watching, maybe?
Find a passion and let it kill you. Basically.
Ladies and gentlemen, back talk with the ball with the back. TB, WTB, Shop Faded. We out.